All right, welcome in everybody to a special Bear and Balanced on Second City Gridiron YouTube. If you're watching us there, obviously on the podcast for Windy City Gridiron Podcast. I'm joined as always by Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. How are you doing, Lester? How's
I am,
Saturday going?
man, it's hectic. I was all planning on just 3 picks. I
Right.
knew there might be a trade. What are the Bears at? Like 9 picks now? So I've been writing nonstop, but I had to pull away from the computer long enough to talk to my guy JB and of course Jacob Infante, NFL draft analyst for WCG.
Yeah, day 3 picks are replicating like bunnies. Springtime is here. You got to love it. Last night, we were kind of complaining on the live stream that we didn't see any trade downs because we needed more bodies on this roster. Ryan Poles has delivered. Jacob Infante is here. He is on top of every single pick that the Bears have made so far. Jacob, welcome. And what can you tell us about the newest Chicago Bear, Treston Ebner?
Yeah, so I think that this is a good pick, at least, from a round 6 perspective. You're looking at a guy who can contribute on special teams. He's one of the best return guys in this class, 4 career touchdowns on special teams, valuable pass catcher out of the backfield, very good athlete. Obviously being a late round pick, I don't think he's going to be much more than just a depth piece, exactly that. But I think that he does have value, and he's good in the areas that are needed to be able to contribute pretty early in his career. So I'm excited about this pick. It's speed for the offense, so I definitely can't complain with that. I think it's a pretty good selection in the grand scheme of things.
Now, you mentioned that he's got some skills in the return game, and obviously, third-round pick Velus Jones projects as being a good returner as well. Looks like maybe that was an emphasis on Ryan Poles' part here to add some talent into the return game. You have any insight into, does Ebner project more as a punt returner, kick returner? Jones is more of a punt returner, kick returner. Any idea of where those reps might compete at?
Yeah, so I feel like Ebner's probably more likely to be he has more experience as a kick returner. He has more, he's proven himself more as a kick returner. I think he might be a better fit as a punt returner at the next level, whereas Velus Jones Jr. might be a better fit as a kick returner, just because I think he's got more of that like long straight line speed. Yeah. And Treston Ebner is the type of guy who can, cut side to side pretty well. So I think that Ebner is going to compete more so for punt return, but I think kick return or punt return, you can't really go wrong with either one of those guys on special teams.
Yeah, I think both these guys are pretty fast. With Velus Jones, he was a 4.3 guy. With Ebner, he's a 4.4 guy, I believe. So we're talking about a tenth of a second here. But like you said, though, a lot of times when you want that pure straight line speed, that usually fits better at kick return. Whereas the guy that's tries to maybe dance a little more, he may be better on the guy that brings back the punts.
Yeah, no, most certainly. And we saw it with it's Tariq Cohen versus Cordero Patterson. Tariq Cohen's that side to side type of guy who can make guys miss laterally. Cordero Patterson's just a straight line monster. So I think those are very extreme examples of that. But I think those are kind of the archetypes you're looking at with both of those positions.
Now, as we talk about maybe a little bit more of the fit on Luke Getsy's offense here, you mentioned that he was pretty good out of the backfield. What kind of routes did you see him run when you were doing tape review? Is this a guy that could maybe split out wide and run a little bit more of the route tree, or is it a guy that's more comfortable starting off in the backfield and running some of those more traditional running back routes?
I think you're looking at more of you're looking more in terms of backfield routes with him, whether wheel routes, whatever you want to call that, and just swing passes, screens, what have you. I think that's where you're going to see a lot of his touches. I do think he can line up in the slot if need be, but I think is not in that regard. It's just more so having him out of the backfield as a guy who can make those grabs and be able to make some guys miss in space.
I do want to mention that with Ebner, this is not like a gimmicky type of back. This guy has legit running back size. I think he's 5'11", 210. Is that correct, Jacob? In that range? We may have lost Jacob. For you guys who don't know, Jacob is actually driving to Indianapolis right now. He has been jumping on all of our pods from the car. He is just so dedicated. So I'm pretty sure I checked the stuff on him, and he did seem like he was 5'11". He has some size to him. It's not like a 5'8" Tariq Cohen type of area where he's a guy that has to be a gimmick. This is a guy that he may be in the mix. I mean, he's not going to supplant Montgomery. He's not going to supplant Khalil Herbert. But as a third back, actually the Bears now have 4 backs in the rosters because they also got the kid from the Titans, free agent. So Drayton. So this is a good stable here. Again, we're talking about a 6th-round draft pick. These guys aren't always locked for the roster. But somehow, some way, I think he will find a way to stick around the Bears.
No, I think it's worth mentioning on CBS's website, which I think does a really nice job with the tracker. I know there's a lot of trackers out there. I just prefer that one. But they do little quick write-ups on all the guys as they're drafted. And so give a shout out to this Chris Trapasso who writes most of these. And he calls Ebner a complete back with serious returning capabilities, thick lower half, and he sinks cuts laterally to make defenders miss. So again, kind of what Jacob was saying, that's why he's more of a punt returner type of guy. Doesn't come into the NFL with much mileage, which that's interesting, right? Like, you see a lot of these guys who have a lot of miles on the tires that have been beat up a lot, throughout their career in college, and they get to the pros and they just don't have much left. And then he finally says deceptive speed, useful in the receiving game. So really just repeating a lot of what Jacob gave in his quick report out too. So you get multiple voices kind of saying the same thing. Again, at this point, it's a valuable add. That they weren't necessarily completely happy with the running back room when they got here. They've added a couple pieces now in the offseason. It feels like that running back room is pretty well established with David Montgomery, likely still the guy that's going to take the bulk of the carries. You've got Khalil Herbert, and now you've got a couple other guys in the room with Ebner adding a different element than maybe some of those other guys. So how do you feel about the overall room dynamics, Jacob, now that you've kind of seen what this looks like after free agency and the draft? Thought we had him back. Jacob, you're on mute if you didn't catch that. Oh, he's out.
Bad connection. Driving through a tunnel probably is my guess.
Well, I mean, if you're in Indiana, you just never know what those cell towers are going to be like. But overall, Lester, any final thoughts on Ebner and where we're at in the draft and what you've been seeing on day 3 from polls so far?
As frustrating it is as a content creator having to bust my ass this whole day, I love what Ryan Poles is doing. He has been, these trade backs are perfect. It's what we all wanted to see. More bite to the apple, so to speak. He's adding O-line, running back, edge rusher. I love what he's doing. And I was really hoping for our spot here on the pod, we were going to get an offensive lineman. That's just not how the chips fell for us.
Nope. We pre-scheduled all of these hits of where they were going to draft. We got a running back. We got a running back from Baylor. Really, it's really sad that Robert can't be here. He can go in depth. Well, I'm sure Robert will dedicate a 6-hour live stream to Treston Ebner and do film review. I count on that, folks. Of course, he is a Baylor alum, and so he will be very excited about this particular pick. But we will keep going here. The Bears have made another pick, and somebody else is going to cover that. And then we'll have a couple more to finish out the day. But thanks, everybody, for joining us on the live stream. Thank you for downloading the pod. Make sure you click and subscribe to Second City Gridiron because we have a lot of content coming at you. So for Lester, I'm Jeff. See you next time. Bear down.
Back to work.